welcome to Team Goals. I started this podcast to facilitate conversations with leaders and experts in all sorts of different fields with a common denominator of wanting to build high performance teams. I think there's something brilliant about working on your individual capability and expertise, but if we're going to build great companies, then we also need team skills. And so I'm delighted to welcome today Uche, who's got a fantastic story and some great experience in the world of banking and tech leadership. So, welcome, Uche. It's great to have you on the podcast. And for our listeners, could you just introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to? And yeah, what does the next 90 days look like for you?
Thanks a lot, Aiden. It's an absolute joy and pleasure to be here. I love everything this podcast is about, and having to talk about my experience and my background together with how we build high performance teams is something that really excites me. I kind of sit at the intersection between technology and financial services. I've worked
Hmm.
within financial services for over a decade, front office engineering teams. I've worked for some, top investment firms, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and a few other financial service organizations. But I sit on the engineering and technology teams,
Right.
and my job has always pretty much to been keeping the technological systems that the traders and the sales and staff members all use, pretty much just keeping them stable, but
Hmm.
not only that, building teams that can deliver under pressure as well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much just what my career has been for the past, I don't know, 14, 15 years. I've also run a few businesses and I also pastor a church. And so I think a lot about people, I think a lot about purpose, I think a lot about leadership and the
Yeah.
intersection of all of that.
Amazing. Busy man. So when I think of Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, something like that, like where my mind goes is it's like there's people shouting at each other, there's data feeds everywhere. For some reason, everyone's still using landlines. It's kind of chaos. Am I way off, or is that what your daily work looks like?
I think that is probably before my time, way, way, way before my time. But I've seen it in the movies as well, and I think before I got into it, that's probably what I thought as well. But when
Mm,
I got on the trading floor, I think it's a less Wolf of Wall Street, and it's more controlled, if I may put it that way. It's loud, it is
hmm.
fast, and it can be unforgiving, to be honest. But
Yeah,
it's one of I see it as one of the best classrooms for learning just how technology impacts the business in real time. So whether at Goldman or at JP, you have traders who pretty much sit across from you. So technology and the business, and when I say the business, I mean traders,
hmm.
salespeople, everyone, you all sit together. So you're building the tools that they use. And they give you feedback real time. You see the
That's
effect of what
yeah,
you're building, and you see how much it can start generating money for the company real time as well. So there is a lot of you get someone shouting at you if you release something and it went bad quite
yeah.
quickly because it has real impact. So I think it teaches you accountability, it teaches you clarity, and also how to be calm under pressure as well.
I think if I reflect over a lot of the tech projects that I've been involved in, then I've had to. One of the challenges has been getting customer feedback. You might be quite removed from if your target audience is the general public. Like, how can you actually, there's whole tools that have been built, sophisticated
Yeah.
tools that kind of record sessions, and you're kind of trying to unpick like what was going on here. Why did they press that button so many times? Whereas your world just seems to be you make a change on the software and someone is probably over your shoulder waiting for that new feature or waiting for that new data set, whatever it is, and they're going to use it straight away. And if it doesn't work, they'll tell you straight away. So what's that like where you really share an office with your end customer, and do you find that that's helpful for understanding really what they need and why that matters?
Yes, very much so. I think the constant feedback loop really, really helps
Mm,
when you're sat across from them and you can see the real impact that your work is making as well, and you get to understand the impact of exactly what you're doing.
Mm.
Yes, the changes will go through, you will be tested again and again just so it doesn't break anything by the time it gets into production. But nevertheless, when a trader comes to you and tells you, oh, they really like the product that was released, or they really like the specific feature that they spoke to you about a few weeks ago, and now they're using it and it's making life easier for them. And, they're able to make money off it as well. It's real impact, real time. I love the feedback loops. There are times that you make mistakes and you make errors. I worked at a particular investment bank without mentioning the particular name, and I remember being on the trading floor, and it was late in it wasn't a Friday evening, but it was late in the evening on a particular weekday, and I had done a change and not completely changed it on every other side that it should have been changed on. So there was kind of like a ripple effect of my change,
Mm.
and that definitely had an impact on the business in the morning. So it's a lot of, like I said, controlled chaos of people trying to figure out what exactly has gone wrong. Can we roll back? Can we, fix the change? Can we push in just something new quickly?
Hmm.
But they get onto you quickly. They get onto you quickly. There's a lot of retro where you have to go back and figure out, okay, next time this is exactly how we can get it done where we don't need to get into this kind of chaos anymore. So the constant on the trading floor, communication is so key. Communication with your teammates, whether you're in the same region or you're someone else in a different region, just so everybody knows what everyone is doing globally,
Hmm.
whether it's communication with the desk, with traders, with those in sales, with those, in senior leadership within technology, senior stakeholders.
Hmm.
Communication has to be so key. You just need to, everything you're doing needs to be well documented, well communicated, so that if, something happens in your absence, some other person in some other region knows about it and can easily fix it for them
Hmm.
or for their traders in their region. So it's the awareness of all of that,
Hmm.
and you have to do that on a day-to-day basis. You never really know what challenge you're going to meet every single day, but as
Yeah.
time goes on, you learn just how to navigate the environment and how
Hmm.
to remain calm, in those environments.
Yeah. So I think some of the things I've experienced around what creates a real sense of urgency in a team will be someone saying the really important customer or client has said they need this really quickly, or there's something as a massive commercial driver. Those are the sorts of things where it can be like, okay, I know we've got like this nice process, but can we just make this quick change? So I'd imagine it'd be quite you'd be dealing with that kind of temptation a lot, if like a trader's got a good relationship with you and they just want to get something done. But then, as you were saying, you're working in a distributed team with people in different time zones all the way around the world, and if some change that you make isn't communicated properly, it can have ripple effects. So if we get really practical over your experience, where have you kind of arrived to now in terms of what you think is best practice to ensure that um, that communication is done as well as possible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I definitely would say everyone who's worked on the trading floor in technology will tell you that everyone in the business believes that their request is urgent.
Yeah.
You will get requests every single day, and everyone believes their request should be done right now.
Hmm.
And there you need to, firstly, it's acknowledging the urgency, because they make the money,
Right.
it's
That's
their
interesting.
P&L. It's understanding that as well. So it's, I think, where I've come to within my experience and my knowledge of how this goes on is, firstly, it's acknowledging the urgency of it, making them understand that, okay, I understand the problem, I understand the
Hmm.
challenge that you're facing, and acknowledging that exists, but also making them see the difference between impact and speed.
Okay.
I think being able to shift the conversation from speed to impact. And I think you control the tempo when you start asking the right questions, like,
Hmm.
where is the workflow, or where in the workflow does this sit? Like, who else is affected if we push this now? Because sometimes it could have a ripple effect. Like, what's the risk if
Hmm.
this behaves differently than expected? You may have a great relationship with them, but it's having that conversation. Like, is this a trading opportunity? Is this a long-term improvement?
Right.
Those questions kind of slow the conversations down without killing the momentum or destroying the relationship.
Hmm.
So oftentimes you find traders, they realize that it's not urgent enough to risk breaking the pricing tool or the pricing model for the whole desk just because they wanted to do or one particular task, for example.
Hmm.
And I think after that conversation, it's not just ending the conversation there, but it's trying to offer a safe alternative, is how I'll put it.
Mm.
And this is where I think tech leadership and maturity comes in because we can do a quick version behind a feature flag, if you get what I mean. We can offer a safe alternative, like let's test it in UAT and you can try it for a bit and see how it goes, but it remains in UAT at the moment.
Hmm.
It's having the conversations like if we ship this now, it might impact downstream and those in other parts of the business. So it's making them just have that understanding, but offering them something that doesn't quite just shut them off, make them know that
Hmm.
okay, there's something you're giving to them while they wait for the main thing. And the reason they are waiting is not because you don't think it's not urgent, but it's just the impact will be a lot bigger than what they imagine as well.
Mm.
Yeah. So
That's a great answer.
I think that's yeah.
That's really interesting because I think if I'm putting myself in that trader's shoes, I mean, maybe they stand on one foot, like, that's the kind of energy of a trading floor. But in the in the trader's shoes, and they're seeing something that directly affects them, and they're thinking about what's going to help them achieve their goals. Maybe it's a bonus or whatever, and it's an opportunity or it's an issue. I like what you're saying there, that it needs someone just slightly removed who can see the bigger picture of
Yeah,
the organization's goals, and then kind of communicate patiently in a way that shows that you've really heard them and value what they've offered,
yeah,
um, but also yeah, an appreciation of kind of everything else that's going on,
yeah,
and perhaps the importance of those things as well.
yeah. Quick fixes or quick like requests aren't really the problem. I think
Hmm.
sometimes it's communicating that with them. It's the hidden risk that's the problem.
Hmm.
Sometimes they are hidden risks, and that's where, as a senior technologist, it's pretty much your job to just make sure like as much as there is urgency for a matter, you don't want urgency to become recklessness, really.
Hmm.
So you need to understand your challenge, but still be able to protect the system. Because at the end of the day, you're protecting them, really
Yeah.
indirectly, but you are protecting them. You're protecting the business, in that sense.
So Uche, let's take it way back,
Yeah.
way before you are kind of leading tech projects in some of these like most famous banks in the world. Can you see, like, early on in your story, were there any experiences when you just first started getting excited about writing code or starting businesses? Can you track back? Where did this all start?
My desire for it or my experiences when I started.
Maybe your desire. Let's start with that.
I mean, from a very young age, I love technology.
Hmm.
From a very young age, always, tell us not to use it or not to touch it because it was this brand golden thing that, if you touched it, you might break it or spoil it. I was really young, but I would always find a way to go in and try and play with it or design something on it using,
Hmm.
MS-DOS or whatever. I'm really not that old, but it was a good time then, and I knew I wanted to do something with technology. Technology definitely wasn't what it was now, and I grew up in Nigeria, and it was nothing even like that then. But then it was time to go to university. I researched, what course do you study if you want to get into something technology wise. I wanted to do engineering, computer engineering actually, because I thought that was my best pathway to do that. But ended up doing computer science. By the time I finished computer science, I still didn't. I wouldn't say I knew exactly how to code. I think I pretty much learned how to code from just learning, really. Pretty much as I knew the terminology from university, the practical aspect came from just personal hands-on trying things out, breaking
Hmm.
things and all of that. And I did my master's in information systems as well. I guess a company gave me a shot at it, and the first job I got, I've worked within financial services pretty much my whole career, but the first job I got, I wasn't necessarily at the on the trading floor itself. It was a London Stock Exchange, and the exchange is kind
Right.
of different from trading houses. But this, I had this manager who I absolutely, absolutely love him. Well, probably the best manager I ever had, and he just gave me a shot. There was this new tool that we're going to build, and he handed it over to me, and he just said, "Look, build this." And I had exposure. I would go to the business users who were analysts at that time, trading analysts, and I'll have a chat with them about what they wanted, and then I'll go back to my desk and try and build what they wanted. So I
Hmm.
was the BA for the project, I was the tester for the project, I was everything for the project pretty much, and I was the only one in the team. That tool was I was the only one building on it, so I owned it. It was my little baby within the organization, and it taught me a lot about how to build.
Hmm.
It really honed my skills a lot. I was able to also be able to translate what the business are telling you, what users are telling you, to actual product,
Hmm.
because sometimes they want something but they don't really know what you're the one who needs to translate it into technical terms, really. And so that really started helping me understand pretty much how business users think, how business users want solutions done, how to sometimes predict what they could possibly want, and how to interpret that, and how to
Hmm.
show it to them in a way that will be useful to them. And there were a lot of mistakes made then, to be honest. There were a lot of errors made then, but there was a lot of learning made then. And but the opportunity given to me to actually build that was really what helped me. And I think I say to people coming off university, getting into the workplace, sometimes people want to go in and hop from one place to another, and I say to them, stick in one place, like stick to a place, get to know the nitty gritty of what you're doing, get good at
Hmm.
what you're doing. If you're a developer, like understand how to really build code, how architecture works, the nitty gritty of everything behind what you're building. And then it makes it's not just about writing code, really. It's how you think about the technology. It's how you think about what goes on behind the scene when it comes to technology, and that's what really makes you good at what you do. So
Yeah.
those experiences kind of like just built and shaped me, and then I started moving more into front office environments within financial services, and then I started learning more of the culture. Since I had learned a lot of the technical skills, it was more about learning the culture of the environment, learning how to navigate and communicate with them, and those are the experiences that really helped me.
I think that's a brilliant experience to have. That was quite early on in your career.
Yeah.
Was that like your first job out of uni or
Yeah, that was my first job after my master's.
after masters? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so good, isn't it? To get the opportunity, to, like you say, to understand what the customer needs, do the testing, do the architecture, plan it all out. So I think um, I I've worked with some developers who they really they just want to focus on writing code. They just want a decent user story to come in, and then they want to hand it on to QA. And I think that there's something cool there in being able to really develop your craft as a developer. But actually, if you do want to progress in an organization into leadership roles, um, you know, you're not going to be writing code 80% of the time,
Yeah.
70% of the time in those roles. And you use your expertise of how technology works to actually um, find out where the opportunities are, what people need, what the business needs, and what's an elegant way of solving that problem. But then you actually hand that work over to someone. It becomes much more a listening and communication role, doesn't it, than a execution role. So to have that grounding right at the beginning of your career sounds like a really smart thing to do for
Yeah.
any budding developer.
For me, it was very. I don't. Maybe I could say I was very fortunate because of the team I worked in. The manager I had, he was very. I want you to own this.
Mm.
And as I began to grow in my career, I think one of the things that starts distinguishing you from, I guess, a junior developer to someone who can be a senior technologist, if I can put it that way,
Hmm.
is the way, like you mentioned, the way you think. Like you're thinking more about outcomes than about tasks, really.
Right.
A junior dev can ask, what ticket am I working on? But a technology leader will ask, like, what problems are we solving? Like you're looking more at the outcome
Yeah.
than rather than at the task. Like, you look at a Jira ticket and you start understanding, like, what is the trader workflow? What is the business impact? What are the risk implications? These are the ways that your mind can work through different things. You start seeing like the whole system. It's not just your piece, right? And the way you communicate as well will change. Like, you're communicating like somebody who understands the consequences of what you're doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's being able to communicate and explain that impact. If you get to a point where you're making statements like, if we push this now, the reports might be delayed, or the P&L calculations might be wrong. You're really thinking about global scale. Your mindset is changing. You're still, involved in the day to day, reviewing code, writing code every now and again,
Hmm.
but you're thinking more about the impact of what you're doing. Yeah. And so once your mind starts thinking that way, and not just about, oh, this, I checked off this, and it's good. You obviously start from, this is the little task given to me, because at the end of the day, you're a technologist. You need to know how to do the basic of the work, which is to write code, and write good code and clean code and explainable code,
Mm.
understandable code, and all of that. But yeah, it gets to the point where your mentality and your thinking starts to change.
Yeah, that's cool. And you're about to start a new role, aren't you? Amazing. So, as you prepare for that role, do you have like in your mind a plan of attack for that first day, those first week or two? Like, what are you going to do to get in there and you know meet who you need to meet, understand what you need to understand to hit the ground running?
Yes, exactly. And I've pretty much already started that now. It's for trading houses and financial services, understanding the users is really important. For our case,
Right.
understanding the business and the business users. So I'm going in there and build a relationship with them,
Hmm.
let them know, who you are, communicate with them, be there. Let them see you, let them know you're there.
Yes.
So that's really important. Understand the culture of how they work. Then there's understanding the technology. The within in financial services, banks, hedge funds, trading houses, a lot of times they've built their own software. So there's that as well. But I think, as you do that, because the learning always continues, there's also understanding the business, literally, like how the trade flow works.
Yeah.
Uh, those are the three key areas that I think, within the first 90 days, is to build relationships, with the business, with those in technology, what are the developers, senior technologists, DevOps, SREs, the entire tech architecture, build a relationship with the business, understand the technology tools that they're using there, and then understand how it's going to help push the business forward.
Cool. So good. Well, I just want to maybe just do two more things. Like
Yeah.
as I'm here as a um, really my specialism and what I've focused on is in the delivery space. Like bringing together tech, design, um, the business and all those types of things. So I'd love to hear from you, from someone as a leader in the tech space. What is maybe one or two things that people in my type of role can do to set you up for success?
Uh, that's a really good question. One of the things that I will say is maybe understanding the developer's point of view.
Hmm.
One of the pain points that I know exists between like developers and managers is sometimes there's misaligned expectation.
Hmm.
There might be an expectation that technologists have in your mindset and managers don't have them. Sometimes it's poorly written requirements. Sometimes it's changing priorities without context, like, oh, we need to change this, but there's no context behind this. There's no,
Hmm.
if I understand context, it gives, because we're humans here. This is not it's not AI that you can just tell change it.
Yeah.
Sometimes devs want to understand the reason why. It helps a lot. Like I said, the higher you go within technology, the more you start thinking about outcomes and impact. And once that's explained to you, the work becomes a bit easier. I had a managing director who once used to say, you know, his job was pretty much to ensure that developers spent at least 70% of their time developing. You have meetings on there, you go on lunch, you meet up with people with coffee, you press your phone a little bit, but if his goal was if we can get developers to spend 70% of their day writing code, we will be very efficient. And that was
Mm.
genuinely his goal. And he worked day and night to ensure that that happened. He took away every single blocker and every single, canceled unnecessary meetings when they just felt too much. And we focused on what we needed to focus on. And genuinely speaking, the team built a bond. We were efficient and effective. And eventually they moved him to a different part of the business, and he literally took everybody together with him over there.
Well, that's the sign of a good manager, isn't it? If
Yeah,
everyone
because
wants to follow him.
it
Yeah.
was we could do our jobs effectively, and we understood why we were doing what we're doing and the impact of it.
Mm.
So that really helped. That really helped a lot.
And did he measure that? Like, how did he land on that kind of 70% as a realistic goal,
I think he
or is it
explained
more
it. To
kind of
be honest, I
subjective?
can't quite understand how he got to that. I think over his experience, I think he had dealt with a lot of engineering teams, and I think he got to a point where he just said, you know what? I don't know how he calculates it or how he measures it, but he looks at an 8 hour period and he takes
Yeah,
70% of that and he says, okay, if we can spend this amount of hours per day writing
yeah,
code, so that way I need to know how many meetings are then in the day that can take the certain amount of hours that are left, and I need to calculate an hour for lunch. And believe it or not, he also put an hour for times people check their phones and take
really.
random. Yeah, he just said he
It's the
calculated.
real world, though, right? That's a real
Yeah, really.
pragmatic approach.
He did say it. He said, "Look, you're gonna press your phone every now and again, and that's gonna distract you a bit." And so he put that into perspective as well. So, which I thought was really realistic. And he said, "Look, if we can get 70% of our time, we'll be very efficient." And he was right. I've got to say, he was right.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, like, obviously that's something that's really stuck with you. You valued that, but it really sounds like he's batting for you. He wants to enable you to do your role, and he's set a very clear goal, 70%, and that's something like you can't just say that once either, can you? It's something that boundary constantly needs protecting and
Yeah,
fighting over.
yeah,
So you're seeing meetings drop out every now and again. You're like, yeah, that wasn't just something he said once. It's
yeah,
something he believes and is maintaining. I love that. I've never heard that before, but
yeah.
I think that's a really effective thing to communicate and have in your mind.
And that was 8, 9 years ago, actually. And it's definitely resonated with me. I've tried as much as possible to implement it with teams that I've led. I've not been as effective, but it's something that genuinely stuck with me because I could see the way he had a set. He wasn't a developer, and he had a set goal of removing blockers, creating clarity. And he would say time and again, we need to, ensure that we set what we're doing, this clarity within that. He
Hmm.
defended the team from chaos so that we could focus our time on doing, and when you're talking about what can maybe managers do that can really help those developers and technologists is that as a developer you want like clear ownership, right? Clear escalation paths.
Yeah.
You want a reliable environment. You want realistic sprint goals, right? And not sprint goals that change every 4 days. You want a culture that where you can ask for help early and all of that. And I think that kind of helps spur and build a team on to really achieve great things.
Amazing. Uche, thanks so much for this conversation. I found it really interesting getting insight into the world of the trading floor, and in a way, I'm kind of jealous of that environment where you get such amazing live testing and real customer feedback. That's something that a lot of contexts is you have to work really hard to get good quality feedback. But then also it sounds really challenging from managing change and priorities, because there's almost like no end to new opportunities or problems, and how you can kind of be in that environment and still actually enable people to work without distraction 70% of the day, does not sound like an easy thing to achieve. But also, I come away from so many of these conversations with a similar theme of almost whatever the context is, things boil down to personal relationships,
Yeah.
clarity of communication, trusting one another, understanding each person's point of view, being able to come at things in a way that is kind of for the other person, not
Yeah.
just you thinking about what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations on the new role,
Thank you.
and just wish you all the best for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you've also recently started a new initiative, haven't you, called the London Lantern? I was able to come along for the which was an amazing evening of hearing lots of different talkers, lots of different talks, and yeah, just tell us about where the idea came from, and kind of what London Lantern is about, and what you hope to achieve with that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's specific day I was going into the office. I stopped at Southwark Station, and I came out and I was taking a walk, and I felt the Lord say to me, in my heart, that, tell my people to shine their light brighter. And it's
Wow.
from a verse from the Bible popped in my heart, which is Luke 11:33, and it says, the Lord has made you a light, and a light should not hide, and that really resonated with me. And this is 3 years ago, and I didn't know what to do with it or how to go about it. But as we go into this year, it was really a burden in my heart to really just serve professionals in the city,
Hmm.
letting professionals know, and mostly those who believe in God and who profess Jesus as their Lord and Savior, that there is an expectation in them, that there is more that they can do and they can achieve. And you're not meant to hide in shadows, really. You're meant to, be out there and be a bright, shining light, help people out. Showcase love, showcase kindness,
Yeah.
showcase excellence in what you do, in your work, irrespective of what industry you work in. And that's literally what London Lantern serves to do in the city. It's pretty much an avenue where professionals can just come together and we can challenge one another, and strengthen one another and encourage one another. One
Amazing.
thing I found out, especially in financial services, you generally need people who can support you and help you, because sometimes the work is challenging and sometimes it can be frustrating.
Hmm.
And when you have people, a network of people and a community that can really, you could do life together with it, that are within that same sector or industry, it really helps you achieve more and know that there is more that you can still do and
Mm.
achieve. And so we have, virtual monthly gatherings, where we just challenge one another, inspire one another, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, well done, and congratulations on. It's really got off to a flying start. It's so true, isn't it, that you gain so much from relationships where people can understand you, and like peers or people a little bit further on from you, who you can just be real and talk about your day or where you're at with your career, maybe some frustrations, and receive just as someone who cares about you and wants to see you grow. That really accelerates that process, rather than kind of feeling that you're on your own, and kind of trying to carve your own path.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exciting times.
absolutely. And people can find out about London Lantern on LinkedIn and
Yes,
Instagram. We'll put
yes,
some links in
yes,
the show notes for that.
definitely. All details about that are on LinkedIn, the London Lantern, or on Instagram.
Awesome. So good. Well, thank you very much, Uche. Thank you to everybody for listening. If you have any questions or thoughts or takeaways from this episode, then I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to drop in some comments. And don't sleep on team skills, because when the individual improves, the results are incremental. But when the team improves, the results are exponential.
Spot on. Love it.